Hey everybody, this is Perch. Here's a some people are liking more of the conversations on this channel that are, I would say, comic book store related, like the kind of arguments you'd get into a comic store, which I've been trying to do a little bit more of because as I mentioned in the video, I just exhausted myself out of the, what's Heather Antos up to today? I don't know, but does it matter on any level to anything that's going on in my life? Probably not. And I say that it gets tiring. But views are down, but retention is up, and that suits me just fine. I'd rather have that, and that makes perfect sense to me. And I'll let somebody else do the all caps "the world is ending" stuff. That is it's not my circus, not my monkeys, as they say. Anyway, here's a question that's very much comic book store conversation. It says, "Hey Perch, you've been doing some comic book store conversations recently, which I love, like the best team ups and why people only fear mutants. I have my own question. It's kind of bugged me since getting into Superman, so here goes. Assuming Superman is weakened, like he's under a red sun or exposed to kryptonite, but he isn't immobilized or injured, he's just exposed to it. What exactly is his strength level, in your opinion? I've always thought that under those conditions, he was stronger than the strongest human, but only by a little. He's basically mildly stronger than, like, Andre the Giant. But you have the more extensive knowledge of him, so I yield to your expertise. Is he totally old man weak, or just made average, or what? Or I guess a better question is, what do you think it should be? Those are two different questions, yes. Also, in case it's not long enough for a video, I'll ask another question, which is, all powers, personality, and history aside, who has the coolest costume in all of comics? I gotta go with Dr. Fate. Dr. Fate's a good call. Dr. Fate is an interesting character because there was this whole bit in the Justice League International, when Giffen and DeMatteis were on that book, and it was you had this Dr. Fate bit where Dr. Fate I always thought would work really well as kind of a supernatural lean horror character, not like they do at Justice League Dark, but I mean truly creepy like horror. I often thought back in the day that they should take Dr. Fate and put him into Vertigo, and that you could do some really cool stories that way of just kind of everything else. But definitely a cool costume. I don't know the coolest. I'll have to give that some thought. You're springing on me here. But as far as the other question, so here's the thing. This always bugged me because Kryptonite comes from Krypton. And maybe it was irradiated through space. I mean, a couple different writers have taken a swing as to why this is. But most often, when Superman is exposed to a red sun or kryptonite, more kryptonite, the red sun tends to, there's kind of a variety of what happens there to him under that. Sometimes he's just like kind of tired. And one writer I remember, and I can't remember who, gave the excuse of, why is he more exhausted and effed up than a regular human under a red sun? The red sun should just lose all his powers. And the answer was that Superman, because he's had powers for pretty much his whole life, he's reliant on them. So now that he has to like walk under his own power without that, that augmentation and that stuff, it's really difficult for him. It's like a toddler kind of learning to walk. I'm not sure I entirely buy that, but I do appreciate that example, because generally speaking, what happens is that in the comics, Superman gets like feeble old man, barely able to move. And this was true in the Silver Age. It's been true pretty consistently. Like somebody whips out a rock kryptonite, and Superman's instantly like, crap, I can't get up. I'm weakened. Lex can just roll me into a pool. Like he turns completely feeble. And I never got that. And I never understood, because again, if you take his powers away, or rather, a piece from his home planet where, his people lived, they weren't walking around like the entire Kryptonians are not like crawling around on the ground like, I gotta get to my rascal. I can't barely move. So hard. So, I mean, they're walking around like regular people because they were. The whole idea was that they had, regular human abilities like we do, and, like Earth people do. So if you expose Superman to kryptonite, he should turn into I'm with you, probably, a at least an average human, and then given that he's all fit and everything, but kind of an Andre the Giant, sure, level of like strong. This is on the stronger spectrum of regular human powers, like Batman. He should be Batman level of capability. So unless you're going to buy into the argument that the powers have made him lazy and sloppy, and when the powers are taken away, he doesn't know what to do with himself. Unless you buy that argument, I always felt it was massively inconsistent and wrong. I think that if you and you'd think a guy like Superman, who's always preparing for things. I mean, Christ, he had a whole ice fortress of solitude where he had like a wax museum of Jimmy Olsen and his future wife and his villains and all the rest of them. So you're telling me Superman wouldn't like go into there and have like a special room where he could train and practice under like red heat lamps so he could, just a little bit of kryptonite so he could like make sure his body wasn't completely enfeebled. It always felt like, Superman, I always struggled with that because they would say that Superman is not as smart as Batman, right? Batman's a careful plotter and a careful schemer, and he's really really smart. But Superman was not a dumbass. I mean, they would have Superman like doing science in his lab, and he's coming up with elaborate plans to screw around Lois for the 50th time in their relationship. I mean, there's Superman. You don't portray Superman like an idiot. It's one of the things I liked about Mark Millar's Huck. That's kind of Superman would get written like he was a complete moron, and it would make sense. You could think of a different. You should not do this, by the way, but a deconstructed Superman, where he comes to Earth, he realizes he has powers, he gets just lazy and stupid, he doesn't study in school. Like, why bother? I mean, he's just going to fly around and do whatever he wants anyway. So he's just kind of a big moron, and Superman is like Earth's greatest hero. And he's still a good guy. Like, you don't make him evil, but you do make him stupid. You make him just like, and that would actually, that would change the entire dynamic of like, Lois immediately figures out who he is because he's just too stupid to do a disguise. I mean, now I'm getting too excited about this idea. The idea that this is like a Joe and Perch bad pitch kind of thing, where it's revealed that Superman is, all this time, what we've been seeing in the comics is kind of his own fantasy. And the reality is that he's an idiot. And he right from the like, hey, Pa, hey, Ma, I'm going to put on these glasses and no one will recognize me, flies in. Everybody's immediately like, holy shit, that's the strongest, that's the world's greatest superhero right there in those glasses. What's he doing? I don't know. Play along. You might kill us. And like the entire thing is this elaborate, setup that's happened. Like, all of the people involved, like Lois immediately figured it out. And then she figured like, well, I don't really love this guy, but he could crack the world in half. So I probably better hang around and like try and, keep him from doing that. I'll be his conscience. And Jimmy Olsen's actually a very clever photographer. And Jimmy's like, all right, I'll help you out too. So I'll be his best friend and we'll just keep him from screwing everything up. And so the tales, the comics we've been reading all this time have been from Superman's perspective, where he thinks he's all smart and brave and he's figuring everything out and it's all great. But in reality, it's the people around him are kind of steering him along. And Lex hates him because he's a moron, but he has these huge powers. And Lex just believes it's incredibly unfair that super smart. He's like, I can actually do real good with these powers. But here we got this guy who's basically the mental equivalent of like a 4-year-old flying around trying to save the planet. And he does. Again, you don't have him do evil things. But, all right, I've gone too far astray. Anyway, in my opinion, the Red Sun should make him just take away his powers, but he should be just a strong human. And Kryptonite, I could buy a little bit of an argument of like, hey, it got irradiated through space, and that caused it to be extra harmful to him on some level. But the other thing is, it should creep up on him. So Kryptonite should have a slow effect, not an instant effect. The second you expose Superman to Kryptonite, he shouldn't be like, ah, shit. And also, they've got to be consistent with this, because Superman's like bursts into Lex's office and he's like, what you doing there, Lex? And he's like, flying in air and super strong. And Lex is like, oh, Superman, so glad you joined me. And Superman's like, hey, what's that you got behind your back? And Lex is like, well, let's use your supervision to find out. And Superman's, all right, again, I'm going to have to see your junk, but okay. And he does, and he's like, oh, shit, Lex is holding kryptonite behind his back. And Superman's like, instantly, oh, crap, I can't move. Aha. If only I hadn't known that he was holding it behind his back, I would have continued to be able to tear up his office and do superhuman stuff. But the second he moved it around his body, now it's weakened me. I mean, they have the whole he can't see through lead thing, but Superman regularly gets surprised by kryptonite with no lead involved. Like, he's like, oh, I wonder what's in this birthday present here. I guess I'll just open it up. Very nice of somebody to send me something, but who could it be? And, I'll just open this package. Oh, shit, it's kryptonite. It's like, the box isn't made out of lead, man. What are you doing? Anyway, thank you very much for the question. Great question. Now I'm all excited about this Superman is an idiot idea, but there you go. Don't let me write comics, folks. How sad would that be? All the people on the channel are like, Perch should run DC. I go in and run DC, and immediately I turn Superman into a complete blubbering moron, and it's like everybody's like, damn it, you were meant to be the chosen one. Anyway, thanks for listening.